Good evening, and welcome to What's Your Story? My guest today is Joyce Goldberg. If you love to read, this show is for you. This is the story of a woman's all-consuming, lifelong passion, reading. Her passion for reading guided her to become a librarian and teacher. She fired the imagination of thousands of kids who were lucky enough to have her in their lives. It is also the story of a little wooden box that stands outside of her home that connects her to the people around the world. Welcome to the show, Joyce.
Thank you.
Joyce, you know we had a talk before this taping, and one of my favorite all-time stories is Yertle the Turtle by Dr. Seuss. I understand you have it and you can read it now.
I would love to do that. One of my favorite things to do is read stories to kids or adults, so I would love to do that. Are you ready to listen?
I'm ready.
Yertle the Turtle by Dr. Seuss. On the faraway island of Salamasand, Yertle the Turtle was king of the pond. A nice little pond. It was clean. It was neat. The water was warm. There was plenty to eat. The turtles had everything turtles might need, and they were all happy, quite happy indeed. They were, until Yertle, the king of them all, decided the kingdom he ruled was too small. "I'm ruler," said Yertle, "of all that I see, but I don't see enough. That's the trouble with me. With this stone for a throne, I look down on my pond, but I cannot look down on the places beyond. This throne that I sit on is too low down. It ought to be higher," he said with a frown. "If I could sit high, how much greater I'd be. What a king, I'd be ruler of all that I see." So Yertle, the Turtle King, lifted his hand, and Yertle, the Turtle King, gave a command. He ordered 9 turtles to swim to his stone, and using these turtles, he built a new throne. He made each turtle stand on another one's back, and he piled them all up in a 9-turtle stack. And then Yertle climbed up. He sat down on the pile. What a wonderful view! He could see most a mile. "All mine," Yertle cried. "Oh, the things I now rule! I'm the king of a cow, and I'm king of a mule. I'm the king of a house, and what's more beyond that, I'm the king of a blueberry bush and a cat. I'm Yertle the Turtle, oh marvelous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see." And all through the morning he sat up there high, saying over and over, "A great king am I," until long 'bout noon, then he heard a faint sigh. "What's that?" snapped the king, and he looked down the stack, and he saw at the bottom a turtle named Mac. Just a part of his throne, and this plain little turtle looked up and he said, "Beg your pardon, King Yertle, I've pains in my back and my shoulders and knees. How long must we stand here, your majesty, please?" "Silence," the king of the turtles barked back. "I'm king, and you're only a turtle named Mac. You stay in your place while I sit here and rule. I'm the king of a cow, and I'm king of a mule. I'm the king of a house and a bush and a cat. But that isn't all. I'll do better than that. My throne shall be higher," his royal voice thundered. "So pile up more turtles. I want 'bout 200. "Turtles, more turtles," he bellowed and brayed, and the turtles way down in the pond were afraid. They trembled, they shook, but they came, they obeyed. From all over the pond they came swimming by dozens, whole families of turtles with uncles and cousins. And all of them stepped on the head of poor Mac. One after another they climbed up the stack. Then Yertle the Turtle was perched up so high he could see 40 miles from his throne in the sky. "Hooray," shouted Yertle, "I'm the king of the trees. I'm king of the birds and I'm king of the bees. I'm king of the butterflies, king of the air. Ah me, what a throne, what a wonderful chair. I'm Yertle the Turtle, oh marvelous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see." Then again, from below, in a great heavy stack, came a groan from that plain little turtle named Mac. "Your Majesty, please, I don't like to complain, but down here below we are feeling great pain. I know up on top you are seeing great sights, but down here at the bottom we too should have rights. We turtles can't stand it, our shells will all crack. Besides, we need food, we are starving," groaned Mac. "You hush up your mouth," howled the mighty King Yertle. "You've no right to talk to the world's highest turtle. I rule from the clouds, over land, over sea. There's nothing, no nothing, that's higher than me." But while he was shouting, he saw with surprise that the moon of the evening was starting to rise up over his head in the darkening skies. "What's that?" snorted Yertle. "Say, what is that thing that dares to be higher than Yertle the king? I shall not allow it. I'll go higher still. I'll build my throne higher. I can and I will. I'll call some more turtles. I'll stack 'em to heaven. I need 'bout 5,607. But as Yertle, the Turtle King, lifted his hand and started to order and give the command, that plain little turtle below in the stack, that plain little turtle whose name was just Mac, decided he'd taken enough. And he had. And that plain little lad got a bit mad, and that plain little Mac did a plain little thing. He burped, and his burp shook the throne of the king. And Yertle the Turtle, the king of the trees, the king of the air and the birds and the bees, the king of the house and a cow and a mule, well, that was the end of the Turtle King's rule. For Yertle, the king of all Salamasand, fell off his high throne and fell plunk in the pond. And to say the great turtle, that marvelous he, is king of the mud, that is all he can see. And the turtles, of course, all the turtles are free, as turtles and maybe all creatures should be.
Wow, my goodness. Thank you so much. Now you know why I love that. Thank you so much, Joyce.
It's a good one.
My viewing audience, if they don't get a kick out of that, there are no kicks to be had. Terrific. So when, how, and where did you get this passion for reading, Joyce?
I think I got it when I was just a little girl at my mother's side. Every night before my twin brother and I went to bed, we each got to choose a book, and my brother on one side of my mother and me on the other. She would read us our favorite stories every night, and I think just that warmth, cozy feeling, sitting with my mother, hearing my favorite story, my brother's favorite story, I think that started it all.
Now, you were connected to something named Alice. What and who is Alice?
Alice was a big orange bookmobile named after Alice in Wonderland. After I graduated college, I worked in a public library. I was a children's librarian, and that library bought this big orange bookmobile named Alice.
How big was this mobile?
It was almost as big as a school bus.
My goodness.
And there were books on both sides. Once you walked up the steps, there were no seats like a school bus would be, but the books were on both sides. And I had a route that I went to. Every 2 weeks, I would go to certain neighborhoods in town, and I would stop at a corner. They knew my schedule, and I'd beep my horn. I had a certain beep, and the kids would flock on. I always started after school, and I'd go drive it till about 8 o'clock at night. The kids would come on, return books, borrow books. Adults came on. And I did that for about a year. It was a lot of fun, and the kids really loved coming up onto the bookmobile and getting to choose their own books by themselves. It was a lot of fun back in the early days.
Do you ever know whatever happened to Alice?
I don't know what happened to the Bookmobile Alice, because I moved on and I got a teaching job and a school librarian job. But last I knew, Alice was still riding the roads.
All right. Well, that brings us to the next point I want to get to with you. In 2007, you won the Plainville Teacher of the Year Award. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you please tell our viewing audience what that was like? What was the competition, and how did you won as a teacher, a librarian, or?
Well, at that point in my career, I was a school librarian in an elementary school, and I knew I had been nominated. I got a letter saying, congratulations, you've been nominated for Teacher of the Year, but there were about 230 teachers in the town of Plainville, and I thought, nice honor. I've been honored. Never in a million years did I think I would get the actual honor. And it was the Friday before April vacation, about 7 years ago, or more than 7 years ago. And
Yes.
the assistant superintendent and my principal walked in my room with a big bouquet of flowers and balloons. And I had a class of third graders at the time. And I'm thinking, the Friday before vacation, why are they coming in here? I don't know why they're coming in here. I guess I didn't even notice the flowers and the balloons. I was just like, oh my gosh, these important people are coming into my room, and they announced that they had been nominated and won Plainville's Teacher of the Year for that coming year. It was probably the highlight of my career. I was so honored that they chose me, a school librarian, not a classroom teacher I had been a classroom teacher, but at the time I was the school librarian, and it was a great honor, probably the biggest honor in my career.
There is a object outside of your home that stands there, and I believe the picture of it has run during this interview. Could you tell us what that object is, how it got there, and how it connects you to people around the world?
I would love to, because I was so thrilled. After 34 years of teaching and being a school librarian, I retired from the Plainville Community Schools last June. And at my party, there was a big box, and I didn't know what was in there. And when I opened it, it was that little free library. And it kind of looks like an enlarged birdhouse. I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to put it or what it was, but the people who were in charge of my party thought it would be the perfect gift for me, because throughout my career I've always loved sharing my love of reading and books. I love reading. I'm not a fast reader. I relish every moment that I can sit on the couch with my book. But they had the kids at Plainville High School make the little free library. Like I said, it looks like an enlarged birdhouse. It stands on a pole right in front of my house. It holds about 25 books. I have adult books, kids' books. I change them off often so I can still share my love of reading with whoever walks by my house. In the wintertime, I'd shovel a little path so people could still get at it. I'm registered around the world with, if you go online to thelittlefreelibrary.org and put in the zip code for Plainville, 06062, you can see my Little Free Library. Anybody who's visiting from anywhere can come and visit my Little Free Library. So even though I've retired after a wonderful career, I still am thrilled that I can share my love of books with kids and adults.
So how are the books protected? Is it waterproof? Somebody might wonder. The books are out there all year round, right?
They are, and I was a little bit afraid when we had all the rain and the snow. Are they going to be damp? The kids who made it put a little roof on it, just with real shingles on it.
Yes.
It's kind of airtight. They haven't gotten damp. I go and check all the time. I have a little stash of books in my office at home, and every couple of weeks I like to change things up so people who go by all the time and say, oh, let's see if there's anything new in there. I like to change them up. So
So anybody riding by could take a book out and or put a book in,
Yep.
or just take a book. Do they have to return the book?
Not necessarily. There's the sign on it that says Little Free Library says, take a book, return a book. They don't have to return the same one they took.
My
They can return any. I don't know. It's just sort of on your honor, so I don't know whether
Okay.
people are actually putting things back. It's never been empty, so.
Wow.
And I always feel like, hey, if they're going to steal something and they want to steal a book, well, good for them. That's
Okay.
the best thing that they could take.
You know, Thank You Mr Falker is the title of a very special book in your life. Why?
Well, Thank You, Mr. Falker was written by my favorite children's author, Patricia Polacco. And when she was growing up, she struggled in school. She was an awesome artist, but she struggled with learning to read. And she kind of fooled all her teachers until she got to 6th grade. And her teacher in 6th grade, Mr. Falker, saw that she was struggling learning to read, and he worked with a reading specialist, and the two of them figured out her problem and got her to read. And she's a wonderful author, has written hundreds of books. She's still writing books today. And I guess it's just because I've been a school librarian as well as a teacher, it's just that little thank you. We don't always, teachers and librarians don't always get that thank you from kids, but I loved that book. When I was teaching and I would read it to my class, I would have the kids in my class write a thank you letter to one of their previous teachers.
Really?
And even when I became the librarian, I would get some letters from kids that thanked me for what I did, and that kind of made it all worthwhile. You know, you go into work every day and do what you're supposed to do, but sometimes it's just that thank you that from the kids that really make the difference.
Now, you've been a teacher and a librarian.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you prefer?
They both have their perks. They both have their perks. When I was a classroom teacher, I had my own little group of kids that I nurtured and I felt they were mine. And when I was a school librarian, I had the whole school. So I can't choose because I enjoyed both of them. I had a fabulous career. I loved every moment of it.
In hindsight, would you follow the same career path?
Oh yes, I wouldn't know what else I would do.
Why? I mean, what just the love of it itself?
Yeah, when I was younger, when I was in maybe 9th grade, and I was planning on what I was going to be doing in high school, was it going to be in college prep or business or what I was going to do, and I went home and talked to my parents about it, and I didn't really have a choice. My father was like, yes, you will become a teacher. And it's like, oh, okay. So I listened to him, and he gave me good advice, and he was proud of me that I followed him, and I did well in my career. So I can't think of another position I would like to do.
So do you see the children of the parents that you taught at one point?
Oh, many generations, yes. Yeah.
So they recognize you still?
Yep, and when I see them like in a grocery store and they'll say, Miss Goldberg, and I'll think, okay, that's what the kids used to call me. Who is this calling me Miss Goldberg? And now I had their children also. Hadn't been there long enough to get grandchildren, luckily, I guess, but no, children of students. It was fabulous.
What would you tell our viewing audience about the importance of reading?
Everybody has to read. Reading makes you smarter. This is what I used to tell the kids.
Okay.
Even the ones that dug their heels in and wanted to be out playing soccer or baseball, I'd say reading is important no matter what you do in life, no matter where you go. It's not just for the smart kids. If you want to read a recipe when you're home cooking something for your family, you have to be able to read a recipe. If you're fixing your car, you have to be able to read the directions how to fix a car. You don't necessarily have to read books all the time or magazines, but reading is important. It just makes you smarter, and it takes you places that you can't even imagine.
Listen, this has been a fascinating 30 minutes. So I thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And I hope our viewing audience really enjoyed you as much as I have. That's all the time we have for tonight's show. My thanks to my guest, Joyce Goldberg, for sharing her story. Thank you for tuning in. Our stories are as different as each snowflake and are as beautiful and numerous as the stars. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time, good night.